Going. I figured I'd start a little bit early today because I had kind of an interesting tweet I wanted to open with. This is something I just saw during my crawling of Twitter, like I do every day when I try to keep up on the news using this ridiculous app. Why does this look so burned out? Oh well, I'll wait till Andy says something if he sees a problem here. That's weird. I don't see a problem with my camera. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, well, you can still kind of see me. Hopefully you can hear me. Don't worry about the lighting, and I will show you this tweet. Girls should bring up astrology on a first date, says our heroine. Not because it's an accurate measure of compatibility, but because it self-identifies men who are arrogant, condescending, and incapable of entertaining opinions they agree with. Before you pass judgment, let's hear what else she has to say. She goes on, which, ironically, is a super strong indicator of poor compatibility. How will you overcome conflicts with your significant other if they won't be willing to hear your perspective and offer empathy? Remember that conflicts are inevitable in strong and lasting relationships. Okay, so right off the bat, she has some pretty good points, and I appreciate what she's trying to say here. What she's saying is that you want somebody who can entertain an idea without necessarily believing it. She likes the idea of a person who can discuss an opinion that they don't agree with, which I respect, but let's read some of the comments because they make some good cases too. So Tom Brown Visual says, I just don't like being prejudged and put into a category based on what month of the year I was randomly born in. Very fair analysis. But that's not exactly what she was getting at. She's talking about the concept of being able to discuss an idea that you don't agree with and see what happens there. And I perfectly respect what she's saying here. I think that's fully fair. Let's go on. People are too comfortable essing on feminine interests because why aren't you able to have a polite conversation about something that you may not be personally interested in? Really, is that the issue here? Is the issue here that ladies are unable to voice their views on things that they're interested in? I don't think that's the case. Like if a guy were to try to bring up NFTs, I don't think that would go over as well as the Zodiac would. Someone else comments, I think astrology is different because it's not like sports versus makeup or something. It speaks to someone's way of perceiving the world. I'm atheist and very anti-new age / woo-woo spirituality stuff, so it would be a legit red flag to me if a date were actually into it. That's fair, but I think she's also still taking it too seriously. And then this tweet is very silly. She's talking about how celestial bodies have foretold you are in great danger. Basically seers of ancient times, which I'm not sure exactly what empire she's referring to with this meme. I don't believe that you can use the stars and planets to tell what's going to happen in the future. Someone else comments, all those kings are dead and I'm not, so who's laughing now? Fair analysis. Astrology isn't just a quirky opinion, it's a pseudoscience. It's perfectly okay to not want to date someone with considerable interest in pseudoscience. It's like saying a man is a bad partner if they don't tolerate their girlfriend's obsession with flat earth or anti-vax. And then someone else points out, all she said was bring up. Why are you escalating that to considerable interest? This is actually an interesting and nuanced tweet that she put out here that raises a lot of good questions. This, I think, is the essence of a good tweet. There has to be enough here that people can disagree with and enough different points of view that you can kind of argue about. Then, of course, you can let people go over the top. You can let people walk it back. People can be like, how could people possibly hold this view? And she's not saying that you should believe in astrology. She's just saying you might want to mention it to see if guys are okay with entertaining ideas that they don't believe in, which I believe was Aristotle. It says it's a mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain the idea without believing it. That's fair too. But I just wanted to point this out because I thought it was really interesting. This is Schrodinger's Brat, which is a pretty clever username. So hats off to her for creating some interesting discussion on Twitter that isn't about Elon Musk, which coincidentally is what we are going to be talking about this evening. I think I might jump into that now because there was yet another dump from Bari Weiss herself. She went through what happened when Donald Trump was banned, which was really interesting. So I'll start reading this and then you guys can join as we go along and we'll see what we get up to. We'll see what we decide, and if you guys have any input, definitely let me know in the chat for sure. Hit the like button, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, go announce it on ham radio, do whatever you want to do. I appreciate your support and you being here. Anyway, Bari Weiss. Thread, the Twitter Files Part 5, the removal of Trump from Twitter. Dun dun dun. On the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of permanent suspension from Twitter, tweets twice. 6:46 a.m. The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America First and Make America Great Again, will have a giant voice long into the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. 3 exclamation points. So he's being motivational to his voters. 7:44 a.m. To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. Period. Interesting. Very passive-aggressive in Twitter speak is the period. For years, Twitter had resisted calls to both internal and external to ban Trump on the grounds that blocking a world leader from the platform or removing the controversial tweets would hide important information that people should be able to see and debate. Quote, our mission is to provide a forum that enables people to be informed and to engage their leaders directly. Close quote. The company wrote in 2019. Twitter's aim was to, quote, protect the public's right to hear from their leaders and to hold them to account. That is a very honorable goal. Let's see if they fulfilled that goal. But after January 6th, okay, as Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger have documented, pressure grew both inside and outside of Twitter to ban Trump. There were dissenters inside Twitter. Maybe because I am from China, said one employee on January 7th, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. Someone responds, I understand this fear. But I also think it's important to understand that censorship by a government is very different than censorship of the government. The First Amendment in the U.S. and similar legislation in other countries with similar concepts exists specifically to prevent the government from silencing the people, and this is how they got around this. This is a very important part of their dialogue was that we aren't the government censoring these people. Never mind that they were actively colluding with government organizations, but I digress. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then this person, person from China originally, says, I respect that, but realistically, we impose far stricter rules on effectively everyone else on the platform. We started labeling/restricting his tweets when they became a threat to democracy and seemed like that was our red line. Yesterday, he clearly attempted to overthrow our democratic system of government and showed no signs of remorse. If this is not a clear reason to suspend him again as an unhinged ruler attempting to subvert the most powerful democracy in the world, I'm not sure what would be. Shrug. Fascinating. So this is them saying, oh, we think he's trying to overturn democracy and we don't like that. Therefore, we're going to take things into our own hands. And it gets worse from here. But voices like that one appear to have been a distinct minority within the company. I'm assuming she means the person from China who pointed out that censorship's a very bad idea. Across Slack channels, many Twitter employees were upset that Trump hadn't been banned earlier. After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. There is a lot of employee advocacy happening, said one Twitter employee, commonly referred to as Tweeps, I believe. I'm not sure if it was Elon Musk that came up with that. I've always thought that Twitter employees should be called Twits, but Tweeps is good too. It's very cute, and it rhymes with creep, which is something that Yoel Roth is, which I think is what we're going to get into next after this thread. Very interesting stuff going on at Twitter. A lot of it's very, very bad. I don't feel like reading all these screenshots. You guys should go check out Barry Weiss's thread. There's a lot of words and stuff here. I'm not great with words and reading, so I'm just going to read what Barry has to say since she summarizes this all well. We have to do the right thing and ban this account, said one staffer. It's, quote, pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement without violating the rules, said another. Okay, this is them postulating. This is them guessing what he's going to be doing. And this is 100% them assuming they know exactly what he's thinking, which is one of my pet peeves. And I tell my followers this relatively frequently. I say, we don't even know what we're thinking ourselves. And we assume that we have the position to assume we know what other people are thinking. And that's just incredibly arrogant, and I don't think it's fair to do to other people. First of all, language is not a good method of communicating exactly how we're feeling and what we're thinking. And second of all, half the time, if we haven't verbalized it ourselves, because verbalization is actually a really good method of figuring out exactly what you're thinking, we're not always entirely sure why we think what we think or even what we think. But I digress. We're not going to presume to know what anybody thinks moving forward. In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by over 300 Twitter employees to CEO Jack Dorsey demanding Trump's ban. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightly termed insurrection. So they were literally taking marching orders from President-elect Biden at this point, which is a very interesting note that I'm not sure anyone else has commented on. But the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. This is where it gets interesting. I think we'd have a hard time saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. It's pretty clear he's saying the American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not the terrorists. We can call them that, right? From Wednesday. So it was clear, even to those at Twitter, that Donald Trump was talking just about the people who voted for him, not about the people who raised Cain at the Capitol on January 6th. Another staffer agreed, don't see the incitement angle here. What PC could it be trying to incite fear about? See, here's the other thing is they use a lot of acronyms that I'm not fully familiar with that seem to just be par for the course at Twitter. So you guys should honestly go and check out Barry's thread, read the comments, see what everybody has to say. I also am not seeing a clear or coded incitement in the DJT tweet, wrote Annika Navarali, a Twitter policy official. I'll respond in the elections channel and say that our team has assessed and found no VIOS, or violations, for the DJT one. She does just that. As an FYI, Safety has assessed the DJT tweet above and determined that there is no violation of our policies at this time. Later, Navarali would testify to the House January 6th committee. For months, I had been begging and anticipating and attempting to raise the reality that if we made no intervention into what I saw occurring, people were going to die. Intriguing and hyperbolic. But I digress. Next, Twitter's safety team decides that Trump's 7:44 a.m. Eastern Time tweet is also not in violation. They are unequivocal. It is a clear no vio. It is just to say he's not attending the inauguration. I don't know if you guys recall this, but this was the last tweet that he made. Was I am not going to the inauguration. And this was actually the excuse that I believe it was the White House. This was the excuse that they gave for why why Trump got kicked off Twitter, which is insane to me. Totally insane, totally petty. To understand Twitter's decision to ban Trump, we must consider how Twitter deals with other heads of state and political leaders, including Iran, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. And this is where it gets super interesting. They all tweet. All three of those leaders tweet. They're all on Twitter. They're all active. And guess what Twitter does with them? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So let's read what Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei tweets. Hashtag Israel is a malignant. Oh my goodness. Israel is not good. It's tumorous. It's very, very bad. Has to be removed and eradicated. It's possible. It will happen. Twitter neither deleted the tweet nor banned the Ayatollah. Holy moly. Wow. That's crazy. But we know this. We know that the Ayatollah Khamenei is still on Twitter. He's not going anywhere. Trump did, but he's sure not. In October 2020, the former Malaysian prime minister said it was, quote, a right for Muslims to, quote, kill millions, quote, of French people, close quote. Twitter did delete this tweet for glorifying violence, but he remains on the platform. The tweet below was taken from the Wayback Machine. Wow, that is a very, very, very spicy thing to say. 22. Muhammadu Buhari, the president of Nigeria, incited violence against pro-Biafra groups. Those of us in the fields for 30 months who went through the war, he wrote, will treat them in a language they understand. Oh, Twitter deleted the tweet but didn't ban Buhari. Fascinating. In October 2021, Twitter allowed Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to call on citizens to take up arms against the Tigray region. Twitter allowed the tweet to remain up and did not ban the Prime Minister. This is actual incitement, okay? So we know, this is so interesting to me because we know that these tweeps were looking for any excuse to ban Trump, and they didn't even bat an eye at these other presidents actively encouraging violence by these other people. like their own citizens. They're genuinely saying, this is what you need to do. You need to attack these people. You need to commit acts of great harm to others. And I think that it is probably just because that for Twitter, the president of the US is obviously much closer to home than the president of Nigeria, or the president of Ethiopia, the president of Malaysia, or Iran. Any of these people. They don't really care. They don't feel that they have an overarching role. They don't feel like they have an important, necessary duty to fulfill as comes to other countries. Let's look at this one. In early February 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government threatened to arrest Twitter employees in India and to incarcerate them for up to 7 years after they restored hundreds of accounts that had been critical of him. Twitter did not ban him. So the man whose government is threatening to arrest employees of Twitter and put them in jail still does not get banned, but Donald Trump does. So slightly misplaced priorities, I think, definitely. But again, I think it's because it was closer to home and it makes them feel like this is something that they can do, some kind of noble calling that they have to pursue. So we talk a lot about how replacing religion with anything else is just, first of all, a horrible plan, but there's always something that comes to take its place. And I can't help feeling that they saw this as a kind of crusade, something that made them feel noble and valuable and honorable, like something they were really accomplishing for the future. And I feel like they moved with that in mind because they soon started to ad-lib pretty wildly. So let's go on here. Twitter executives did ban Trump, even though key staffers said he had not incited violence, not even in a, quote, coded way, close quote. Less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijay Gadde, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, our favorite lady, asked whether it could, in fact, be coded incitement to further violence. So she's continuing to ask this question, e.g. use of term American patriots, and they will not be disrespected or treated unfairly. And someone else responds, this is an interesting question. I'm going to speak with my team to see if we can run a quick survey to get reactions to the language contained in the tweet and get back to you. So they were really going over this with a fine-tooth comb. And Vijaya says, I'm not sure I would rely on a survey. I worry about how that would be perceived externally, which is very interesting. So this is lawyer speak. So I know that we're not doing the right thing here, and it's best to not put any of this on paper, which unfortunately she said in the Slack. And if you guys have ever used Slack, you have to know that your employer can see everything that you say 100% of the time. There's no question about it, and you should act accordingly, which is fine. It's fair. It's basically like having a conversation in a professional setting, just on the computer. A few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scaled enforcement team suggest that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy if you interpreted the phrase American patriots to refer to the rioters, which they had previously said, pretty sure that wasn't the case. But Barry continues, oh my gosh, excuse me. Barry continues, things escalate from there. Members of that team came to view him as the leader of a terrorist group responsible for violence/deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler. And on that basis, and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. This is actually something that Yoel Roth said probably back in 2017, talking about when Trump came into office. He was talking about how there were actual Nazis in the White House. Totally insane. But this is really what he thought. And when you get a whole bunch of these people like this in one place, what do you call that? Well, a left-leaning organization, big tech organization, but in this instance, 100% Twitter. At least there were a few voices that dissented, right? Honestly, that's better than I would have expected. And good for those people. Okay, so they started to view him as a leader of a terrorist group. That's crazy. 2 hours later, Twitter executives host a 30-minute all-staff meeting. Jack Dorsey and Vijaya answer staff questions as to why Trump wasn't banned yet, but they make some employees angrier. Multiple Tweeps, Twitter employees, have quoted the banality of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis following orders, relays Yoel Roth to a colleague. I have been trying to encourage people to get away from using the Nazi comparison for everything and for pretty much anything, because the fact of the matter is that we don't grasp history strongly enough to really make that analysis fairly. I don't think that's a line that we should draw unless we fully understand everything that went on there and everything that is going on now. And we don't understand either of those things. I think that it might be more accurate perhaps to compare it to something like the USSR, which had ridiculous censorship and 1 in 5 people were informants. If you want to make that comparison, but the left throwing around the term Nazis has really made it rise in people's estimation, and it's made it easier for people to draw that line, which I think it's a failure, and I think it does a great disservice to people who were actually harmed in that situation. People who survived the Holocaust deserve a little more respect and a little more understanding of what went on there. Multiple tweets have quoted, the banality of evil. I don't like them using Hannah Arendt's philosophy in that way. She was much deeper than just, Nazis are bad. Dorsey requested simpler language to explain Trump's suspension. Roth wrote, God help us, this makes me think he wants to share it publicly. If we get close to suspension and an analysis of 8chan or Parler is part of the decision, any links to that content would be helpful for us with trusted. I'm guessing they meant with trust and safety. If possible, I'd like those services to pay a price here. And Yoel says, yep, noted. Dell is rewriting the doc per request from Jack to make it, quote, simpler, which, God help us, makes me think he wants to share it publicly. I hope he did. I hope he did plan to share it publicly. 1 hour later, Twitter announces Trump's permanent suspension due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Many at Twitter were ecstatic. OMG! Exclamation points. Feels like a piece of history. Saw the message. Thank you to everyone for your impactful work this week and for the discussion and drafting these complex assessments. I'm very proud to work and learn from you every day. Wishing you a good weekend. So these are the kind of congratulations that you can see between leftists as they celebrate something that they think they won. And congratulatory. Big props to whoever in trust and safety is sitting there whack-a-moling these Trump accounts. Can we get them one of those awesome cards I've heard about? Definitely some extraordinary acts of awesomeness going on around Twitter right now. Don Jr.'s account needs to be locked too. By the next day, employees expressed eagerness to tackle, quote, a medical misinformation as soon as possible. And this is why you can't give petty tyrants this amount of power. It goes directly to their head, and then they start saying things like, oh, well, we did so well with that. We saved democracy. Why don't we just do this with this? Yes, we absolutely plan to do this in 2021 with the timeline being as soon as possible. COVID is one specific disease. Medical misinformation is a much broader category of harmful content. We've laid a lot of the groundwork for policy and product behavior through our work on COVID and the election. The Misinfo policy team in trust and safety, along with the folks in health experience, TWS research, and other teams across the company are now focused on getting it to a place of improved maturity in how our policies are actualized across reporting operations, global scale, scope, etc. We'll have more to share on this soon. And then someone responds, thank you. There is absolutely no case that can be made that Twitter is not a publisher and is only a platform. I don't believe that for even a second. Like Section 230 would have a field day with this. This is them literally carefully making it so that they are a publisher. They want to curate the speech of everyone on this platform, and they know that it's used for the biggest stories on earth, which has to give them such a huge heady rush of power. It's crazy to me that this was allowed to happen, and I'm glad it's coming to an end. And it makes sense to me that leftists are melting down now because this was their thing. This was how they were in control of the narrative, and they're seeing it slipping away, and it has to be painful. This has got to feel like when Trump got elected, honestly. For the longest time, Twitter's stance was that we aren't the arbiter of truth, wrote another employee, which I respected, but never gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling. So what you're saying is you would have preferred to have been an arbiter of truth because you think that you have actual truth. I cannot handle the arrogance of the people at this company. This is insanity to me. I personally don't even believe in God because I won't say one way or the other if God exists because I don't think I know. Okay? Imagine being somebody who thinks that they should be the arbiter of what is good and true. I cannot wrap my mind around that. Hopefully you guys can. Twitter's COO, Parag Agrawal, who would later succeed Dorsey as CEO, told head of security Mudge Zatko, that is an interesting name, Mudge Zatko, I think a few of us should brainstorm the ripple effects of Trump's ban. Agarwal added, centralized content moderation, IMO, has reached a breaking point now. I think he has a very good point here. Centralized content moderation, in fact, had reached a breaking point. They just didn't realize it, and it took a long time for them to realize what had happened. Outside the United States, Twitter's decision to ban Trump raised alarms, including with French President Emmanuel Macron, German Prime Minister Angela Merkel, and Mexico's President André Manuel López Obrador. Macron told an audience he didn't want to live in a democracy where the key decisions were made by private players. I want it to be decided by a law voted by a representative or by regulation, governance, democratically discussed and approved by democratic leaders. This is the most sane take we've heard in this thread so far. Merkel's spokesperson called Twitter's decision to ban Trump from its platform problematic and added that the freedom of opinion is of elementary significance. Yeah, I think that's fair. Elementary meaning it is an element, it is a core tenet. It's incredibly significant to continuing free speech and an actual open dialogue. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny criticized the ban as an unacceptable act of censorship. Yeah, 100%. Whether you agree with Navalny and Macron or the executives at Twitter, we hope this latest installment of the Twitter Files gave you insight into that unprecedented decision. From the outset, our goal in investigating this story was to discover and document the steps leading up to the banning of Trump and to put that choice into context. Ultimately, the concerns about Twitter's efforts to censor news about Hunter Biden's laptop, blacklist disfavored views, and ban a president aren't about the past choices of executives on the social media company. They're about the power of a handful of people at a private company to influence the public discourse and democracy. This is reported by Michael Schellenberger, Isaac Grafstein, Snoozy Weiss, I don't know who that is, Olivia Reingold, Peter Savadnik, and Nellie Bulls. Follow all of our work at The Free Press, which she links below. If you haven't checked out The Free Press, that sounds great to check out for sure. I really appreciate what these guys are doing, and I think that the way they're slow rolling this, I can't decide if it's a good idea or a bad idea. I think Jack Dorsey might have been onto something when he was like, release it all at once, let everyone sort through it on their own. It wouldn't be a big deal. In fact, it might be a better approach. Otherwise, people will become kind of disenfranchised from it as time goes on and on and on and more keeps coming out. I know it's hard for us to sustain our attention span. I know it's challenging. It's especially challenging even for me. I don't know if you guys have tried to read a book lately, but if you're on social media a lot and then you switch over into trying to read books, it's hard. It's significantly harder to read a book once you've been on social media a whole bunch. It's really not cool. I need to get back into practice of like just setting aside an hour at a time where I do nothing but read, don't look at my phone, don't do anything else. And I think that's probably a way better plan than just being on social media all the time. All right, let's see here. Cool. Okay, so I got a couple tweets from Elon Musk about Yoel Roth, which is fascinating. This is a little out of context, so I'll read to you what he's saying. Watchtel and Twitter board deliberately hid this evidence from the court. Stay tuned, more to come. This is Yoel Roth saying, but also LOL. If Amir continues to BS me, my escalation route is Amir's OKRs are entirely based on fraudulent metrics, and he doesn't care and may actively be trying to hide the ball. Literally doing what Elon is accusing us of doing. So it sounds like what Yoel Roth is saying here is that what was happening at Twitter before Elon took over was exactly what he said they were doing, which is where they were trying to feed him fraudulent metrics. They were trying to lie to him about how many bots were on the platform and all this other stuff. And then let's see what I wanted to say. Oh yeah. Elon Musk made an interesting character assessment about Yoel Roth because Liz Wheeler, a lead lady at OAN most recently, I believe, says this isn't surprising. Yoel Roth is a nasty individual. Should have been the first person fired. He once called Trump an actual Nazi and a racist tangerine and used his opinion to justify censoring Trump tweets. This is all correct, true. Let's listen to what Elon has to say, and then we'll draw our own conclusions about how good he is at judging people's character. Elon says, we've all made some questionable tweets, me more than most, but I want to be clear that I support Yoel. My sense is that he has high integrity, and we are all entitled to our political beliefs. Okay, so what Elon says here is, I'm I am fully content to trust that he believed what he was saying. He was willing to give Yoel Roth the benefit of the doubt. Whether he deserved it remains to be seen. I think that it's fair to give people a little bit of grace because we do all make questionable tweets. We are all entitled to our own political beliefs. His only error might have been that Yoel Roth had high integrity. Although it could be argued that he had high integrity, the problem was that he believed that his mission was to save the world by keeping Donald Trump from ever speaking again, which just dives right into authoritarianism, which I don't find to be particularly compatible with high integrity. But I suppose they are not technically the same. I feel like we're splitting hairs a little bit here. So let's see what Elon has to say about Yoel Roth most recently. Here we go. Eliza, she was on Timcast IRL with us. She's doing great work over there. Says, I think I may have found the problem, Elon Musk. And this is Yoel Roth's tweet from 2010 saying, can high school students ever meaningfully consent to sex with their teachers? Wow, what a question, Yoel. Why would you ask that? That's insane. And then Elon says, this explains a lot. And continues, looks like Yoel is arguing in favor of children being able to access adult internet services in his PhD thesis, which, for the record, has now been retracted from UPenn's website, from my understanding. I believe it was UPenn, and I believe it is retracted altogether. You cannot find his PhD thesis anymore. But when you could, this is what it said. It's worth considering how, if at all, the current generation of popular sites of gay network sociability, aka Grindr and gay hookup apps, might fit into an overall queer social landscape that increasingly includes individuals under the age of 18. So we've moved below the age of consent. So that's a strong start, Yoel. Even with the service's extensive content management, Grindr may well be too lewd or too hookup-oriented to be a safe and age-appropriate resource for teenagers. But, oh my gosh, here we go. But the fact that people under 18 are on these services already indicates that we can't readily dismiss these platforms out of hand as loci for queer youth culture. The critical theory newspeak in this PhD thesis is just amazing. This is exactly what I would have expected from people who are actively censoring people like Dan Bongino, Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, Mike Cernovich. Everybody I follow, know, and care about is being censored by someone who believes these things, in this instance talking about very young people who are below the age of consent. But I digress. Rather than merely trying to absolve themselves of legal responsibility, or worse, trying to drive teenagers out entirely. Excuse me, how is that worse? Service providers should instead focus on crafting safety strategies that can accommodate a wide variety of use cases for platforms like Grindr, including, possibly, their role in safely connecting queer young adults. Well, doesn't that sound nice? I really appreciate what Yoel is trying to do here. He's just trying to be nice and make a better, more inclusive world. No, I'm just kidding. That's disgusting. That's borderline pedophilia. I believe that's called ephebophilia, where you go after somebody who's in their teens. It might be a little bit younger than this, but this is just highly uncool. I don't know how much you guys know about the fall of Rome, but going after young boys was a very big deal back then. Highly, highly uncool. So anyway, that was who was censoring all of our tweets and making sure that people like Trump had their accounts restricted so that the fewer people than usual interacted with their communications. Isn't that great? Isn't it annoying to be right about all the worst things? It really is irritating because it's like, okay, well, I feel super cynical, but I think this about this. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm correct about that. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to move on and see what else I'm going to be right about. And then I'm like, oh, I have a sinking feeling that this is happening now. And then it turns out that's happening too. And oh man, I hate it so much. Anyway, I'm going to start to wrap up a little bit because I've kind of ranted with this one, but I think it's super important to examine what's going on at Twitter because people like to try to discount the Twitter files. They try to pretend that this isn't a big deal. But when you really get down to it, this isn't just about Twitter. This is about human nature. This is about the role critical theory has played. This is about the role of pedophilia. And I tweeted the other day, I said, I think Elon Musk has uncovered a deep, dark hole here, because once you start to get into this kind of thing, you are in danger, which is very interesting to realize because people don't want this kind of stuff to come to light. A lot of people have been saying that they show, the meme of Elon Musk pushing a number in his phone and it says order, add to cart, increase security or whatever. And I'm like, yes, 100%. I'm genuinely concerned about his safety because the way he's going about doing this, he's not pulling any punches and he's not being unkind about it, which is really interesting to watch. I think that people think that in order to really win and really get one up on your enemies, you have to be mean and cruel and really put them in their place. But all he's doing is asking questions. He's interacting with normal people. He interacted with me. In fact, Ron Filipkowski, I kind of have to show you guys this, hold on a second. I got to pin this message. I got to show you guys this tweet from Ron Filipkowski. I think that's how it's pronounced. Filipkowski. He goes after red ladies a lot. He really has a lot to say about women who believe differently than he does, which is fascinating. So let me see if I can find. He made a list, which was great. I was tickled pink. So here, let me show you this real quick and then we'll wrap it. Some accounts the owner of Twitter has replied to favorably in the last 7 days. Charlie Kirk, Glenn Greenwald, Tim Pool, Tom Fitton, Lara Logan, Cernovich, Libs of TikTok, Clay Travis, Dave Rubin, Cat Turd, Ian Miles Chong, Avi Yamini, Viva Fry, Bad Kitty Uncensored, Eliza Blue, and yours truly, Sour Patch Lid. So I made it onto this list that has cost Ron the very last shreds of his hair, and I feel completely fine with this. I think this is great. Like, I genuinely get the vibe that he's like trying to call us to the principal's office. Viva Fry says, could you at least tag us so that the people can see more easily subscribe to our accounts? Winky face. I love it. Spike Cohen says, I can tell this is bad because you put their names in all caps. And then this user says, isn't Eliza the one pushing anti-pedophilia content? What's his issue there? And Tim says, I'm sorry this is happening to you. Somebody comments, Flippy no happy. Oh. Yeah, and Adrian Curry, our favorite Adrian, says you hate anyone who isn't a lefty. So stunning, very brave. Oddly, plenty of old school liberals on your list. The people you shunned out of your far left cults. And I said something along the lines of, I made the list that Ron is crying over with my favorite gif in the world, which is this laughing bearded dragon. He is my spirit animal and I love him. He's saying he, 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 he. I don't feel bad at all. And I don't feel bad that lefties are losing their minds over this. I could not be happier. I don't know if you guys remember the screaming lady at Donald Trump's inauguration, but this is kind of what this feels like. And I don't know if I should feel bad, but they did just spend the last 6 years acting like every one of us were terrorists. Honestly, I have very little sympathy and very little patience for people who truly believe that, and for people who are fighting back against anti-pedophilia. That's crazy to me. And I would like to believe that that's nothing to do with this, but I would not put anything past anybody like this. It's just genuinely distressing and disgusting to realize where the left is at and how gross and weird they are. Andy was mentioning this earlier because we were talking a little bit about Sam Brinton because we were listening to Michael Knowles. Sam Brinton dresses like a woman, does whatever he wants. Michael Knowles was pointing out that no one's ever told him no, and he kind of feels bad for him because if even one person had said, look, you just need to act normal. It's not that hard. I'll help you with it, whatever. But no one ever did. And Andy was pointing out that these people have gotten away with this for so long that they really think that this is how it's supposed to be, which is just kind of flummoxing, but it's true. It's 100% true. They've basically created their own little utopia where no one disagrees with them. This is why I wrote an article about how it's good for your brain to be a conservative, because people don't agree with you. And I would posit that it's even better for you to be pro-life because you're forced to defend every position you hold. You absolutely have to. I mean, you're attacked from the left and the right. You're attacked by people who believe, oh, there should be just a little bit of abortion. And you're attacked by people who believe that you are controlling women and all this other nonsense. And it's just... it's good for your brain to be engaged with a kind of difficulty. I was thinking about this as well as I was struggling with some moving to a different state nonsense. And I was like, you know what? I really think that, first of all, adulthood is nothing but a series of difficulties presented to you in varying shades, right? I don't know what, I think there was a meme about how adulthood is nothing but like saying it'll slow down after this week, every week for the rest of your life. And I think that's 100% the case, but I think that's okay. I 100% think that's what keeps us sharp. We need to not surround ourselves with yes men like these leftists do. We need to be constantly defending our ideas. We need to understand our own thoughts and our own reasoning and our own philosophies, and we need to work to develop those ourselves. So I really think that, first of all, I fully believe that what's happening at Twitter is awesome. I think it's truly one of the greatest things that's happened for free speech in quite a while, and I'm really excited for it. I don't think that Elon Musk has what it takes to change the shape of the American government, but we can at least focus on this one little corner of good things that are happening as far as free speech goes. I know that the founding fathers would be amused, if nothing else, and probably highly congratulatory of him just for rescuing this crazy, weird platform from these crazy, crazy people. So I think I'll wrap it here. Definitely keep an eye. I think that, okay, so we had Matt, Barry Weiss, Michael Schellenberger, then we had Matt again, and now we have Barry again. So I'm assuming if it continues in this way, we should have Michael again, but I don't know yet. And she didn't mention anything about who's upcoming. So definitely just stay tuned to that for sure. I turned on my notifications for all these peeps, and I will definitely keep an eye on them for sure. Let me see what you guys are thinking. She said all caps is boomer anger. That is correct. I did say that. I responded to Tim because he commented, I'm glad this is happening to you in regard to Ron Filipkowski, and I am too, 100%. I think this is something that he fully deserves. Let's see here. Sounds like somebody's feeling left out. Everyone give Ron some space. He's feeling very fragile right now. Everyone's like, oh, cool, I'm going to follow all these people now, which I think is awesome. They say all publicity is bad publicity. All publicity is good publicity, and I think it's 100% true. Where did Tim say what he said? I'm not seeing it. Yeah, he said, I'm happy this is happening to you. And yeah, I'm kind of glad that they're melting down. I think this is exactly what they signed up for, and this is what they get. Someone says, no, I don't feel bad at all. We've been abused. Yeah, 100%. I want reparations. We don't want reparations. I don't need that. Yes, I do think that speaking in all caps is a mark of boomer anger. 100%. That's what I tweeted, and that's what I think. As you can see with Ron's list here, a lot of boomer anger going on there. He's just yelling. Like, I don't even know if he's yelling. He's just like speaking very pointedly in a very disapproving manner. It's crazy. Earlier, I tweeted Filipkowski was Philipping out. That's a great catchphrase. Filipkowski. Okay, that's how it's pronounced. Yeah. I am on the nice tweeters list. This is, in fact, the nice tweeters list. You should follow every single last one of these people, except Cat Turd. He has me blocked. I still have no idea why. I firmly believe it was because I wasn't pro-Trump enough. Yep, my name was on a list. I'm sure my name is on lots of lists. Andy says, I'm trying to collect unwoke nerds. Indeed, we are. CNN's last report is omitting the ex-employees' tweets. I'm shocked they covered it at all. I saw a comparison that, son of a gun, I can't remember his name. He's a guy who lives in Spain. His name is Tom. Oh my gosh, it's going to bother me if I don't look him up. His name is Tom, not Tom McDonald, not Tom Fitton, Tom Elliott. Yes, he was talking about how these organizations covered or didn't cover this news. Check this out, guys. So here we have all of the people who talked about it. We have Fox News Channel. The keywords were Twitter files. Oh my gosh, sorry. Twitter files, okay? Fox News Channel mentioned it 374 times. Newsmax mentioned it 291 times. And then in third place, we have MSNBC mentioning it 17 times. I'm sure to dismiss it. And then CNN mentioning it 13 times, which honestly is more than I expected. ABC, CBS, NBC, hardly at all. Between all three of those, we have one mention on NBC News, which not at all in any way surprising. So they're not talking about it at all. I'm impressed CNN mentioned at all. I did low level programming and hardware engineering. Definitely join Andy's group. He's over on Minds. He's in there with our pal Soundwave TM3. Good stuff over there. Me too, Lydia. I miss reading. Yes, 100%. Try reading. Set a Pomodoro timer for like 20 minutes and see how you do. Twitter would have been better off if they had spun off into two different directions instead of smushing the pathway of speech. Don't remove, redirect. That could chamber. Fine, don't delete. Interesting take. That is a thought. That's an idea. They probably just didn't see a path to profits that way, which is fine. Mudge is his hacker name. Is it his hacker name? I don't know. He has a crazy last name too. Elon saved the world buying this racket. Somebody said he didn't buy a crime scene. He bought a criminal organization, and that's kind of how it's feeling. But lefties will tell you that nothing illegal has been done here yet. And I think this actually transcends illegality. The fact that they were openly quashing people's First Amendment rights, the fact that they were acting like hypocrites, the fact they were acting like monarchs and unelected rulers and power-hungry, crazy people. I think that's kind of a bigger deal than illegality. But I know that it would be better and easier to say that illegality was the standard that we could rule this by, but I don't think so. Well, might not be wrong. Operation Paperclip and their progeny. I'm not sure what that is in reference to. Corker gave me a package of cookies made in China, so I typed, "Thanks for the communist Christmas cookies. Wonder if that will get flagged at work." I don't know. If we compare everyone to a Nazi, no one's a Nazi. She's right about lack of understanding. Yeah, I think that if you call names like that, it really weakens the impact, and I don't think that's something that you should try to do with the Nazis. If anything, I think that we should be talking about Joseph Stalin more often. We shouldn't be assigning these names to people. We should be saying things along the lines of, well, let's make sure that we're not mimicking Stalin. Let's make sure that we're not going the way of medical Lysenkoism with like Dr. Fauci or whatever. There are a lot of other different comparisons we can draw that are not Nazis. We can be a little creative. Let's try that for sure. All right, you guys, I've been flapping for, oh my gosh, almost 47 minutes. I appreciate you guys joining me very much. I wonder, but don't want to know, how deep the sickness was at old Twitter. Yeah, I don't know either, but I feel like we're going to find out, and I'm not sure if I want to. I just think it's necessary because sunlight is certainly the best disinfectant, and this is no different. It is the case in every instance. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it here. I'm going to go in search of some food for Andy, and he's going to skate as well. So look for his skating videos over at minds.com, and make sure you check out Public Square, the app, publicsq.com. Good stuff over there, especially if you're Christmas shopping. And you guys can check me out at sarahpatchlids.me. Until next time, bye guys.